everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. With rain, shine, and everything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news you so love. I'm Nate Edwards, right on one side.
Connor Baltazar.
And we have a little bit of recruiting news to cover, and we're going to cover the Backcats a little bit, not too much in depth, because, there's not really much notable that happened with them. But I think the bulk of this episode will be spent on the men's basketball team, specifically their recruiting and a new pickup of a coach. But we're going to start off with a brand new 2026 football commit, and that is offensive lineman from Centennial, I should say, Colorado, Cherry Creek High School. If that sounds vaguely familiar, it's because you know where George Fitzpatrick came from, who's the transfer tackle that K-State took in this cycle. And a lot of what I've seen about Oliver Miller is, or at least online, is, yeah, it's another fine offensive line pickup. But there is a small subset of people, specifically Drew Galloway of KSO, who really, 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 really like Oliver Miller. And I like him as well. But Connor, I'm just curious where you sort of stand. He's not rated on 3, but he's a 85 3-star on 24/7 and a 5.5 3-star on Rivals. So sort of the default you're a P4 commit ratings.
Yeah, and you're right on that. I mean, that is kind of like the token rating they throw out whenever they haven't evaluated somebody, and then he commits to a Power 5. I really like Oliver Miller, and I do think also that you're right in saying that he's kind of flying under the radar right now. And I think a lot of that has to do with how his recruitment went for K-State. He was someone that was just really not on my radar at all, as someone that I was thinking might be committing, and was someone I really wasn't even familiar with prior to his commitment. But there's a lot to really like about him. He's got long arms, and he's got a good frame to work with as well. I mean, 6'6", 310 pounds, that's already a really good starting point for a rising senior. But I also think it's maybe showing a bit of a slight switch in offensive line recruiting philosophy as we move from Connor Riley to Brian LePack. Connor Riley, to the chagrin of many, did have a tendency to go for undersized guys when it comes to weight. And a lot of that, I think, was the idea that he could take those guys and get them to tack weight on, but we often saw that maybe that wasn't the case. And that's not to say every time that was the case, but it's just a real mixed bag, you might say. But this is a guy that size-wise, maybe not necessarily strength-wise, but size-wise, he's there already. Like he kind of looks the part as things stand. I mean, 6'6", 310, that stands out a little bit. But as for the player himself, he engages well, and I like his frame as well. Long arms, that's always something that you should be looking for offensive linemen, particularly if they're playing tackle, which this guy's listed as an interior. On 3, he plays right tackle in high school and generally seems to hold his own out there, which, again, tackle and Power 4 is a completely different animal. But he's from an area that I think has some decent football. I mean, given that George Fitzpatrick came out of the same high school. But those are my thoughts on him. Buries a lot of guys too.
My biggest thing with him is he sort of reminds me a lot of, he's basically an anti-John Pastore, where John Pastore as a tackle was an immaculate pass blocker, really, really technically sound, but I don't want to say he was maxed out as an athlete, but you could definitely tell that run blocking wasn't going to be his biggest forte. Oliver Miller is the exact opposite. His pass protection needs a lot of work. He just doesn't have the shuffle step down. But his lateral agility and his ability to latch on to people in the running game, especially in the zone running game. Like, watching this guy's zone, like wide zone reps, is massively impressive for a high schooler. And I think that's kind of why he's playing right tackle at that level. And I think he could stick at tackle at the Power 4 level. My main concern is that pass protection. And there are a lot of reps where, Connor, you mentioned burying him. They're like half the time when he's burying someone, it's legit. And the other half, he's yanking them down, and that's going to get called. Like, that's going to get called for a hold in Power 4. Or really with any refereeing crew. So if he cleans up his pass protection and basically just stops pulling guys to the ground, I really do like this pickup, because he, as a run blocker, he's there. Like, if we're running wide zone stuff, he'll be fine. He can survive that way. But I like the pickup. We forgot to mention who is involved with him. In terms of offers, he had Wazoo, Washington State, Purdue, and Colorado State are the most notable ones. Apparently, Ohio State was kicking the tires on him to see how that was going. I imagine Ohio State, with the recruiting resources they have, they kick the tires on a lot of people. So take that for what you will. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this pickup. I don't agree that he's an interior guy. I'm kind of with you, where I think he can stick at tackle. I think he's a bit too tall to be an interior guy, honestly. It's kind of the problem that Ryan Howard has, where his skill set is, and I'm not saying Oliver Miller's skill set's the same, where Ryan Howard has the skill set of an interior guy, but is too damn tall to be an interior guy.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird spot to be in. But yeah, he's, already 6'6", so he might have a little bit more growing to do. So there's a chance that he could go up a couple more ticks, but we'll see on that. But yeah, you're definitely right on his pass protection. You go through his huddle, about half of those reps. He is literally, it's offensive tackle, but you're not supposed to literally tackle the defensive end if they're about to get around you. So maybe at one point that's why they were called tackles, but not anymore. But yeah, lateral agility at least lends itself to the possibility that he could learn that shuffle step and become a really good pass protector, because he does move laterally very well, like Ace said. So that may be something that we're hopefully projecting with him.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good pickup for K-State. That's probably the tackle of this class. I think, is it Lamarcus Barber's the guard? Yeah. So I think that, especially with how big the class is from 2 years ago, I still think that we'll probably pick up maybe one or two more offensive linemen, because we literally picked up an entire starting offensive line a few years ago with Rockers, Shunky, Hawkins, Howard, and Massey. So
yeah, we should be set on the offensive line, at least for. And the thing is, all those guys play different positions. So it's like if we really felt like it, we could just roll out a starting lineup of redshirt freshmen this year. And honestly, a couple of those guys are probably gonna be on the flirting with the 2 deep at the very least. But still a little early for that. But yeah, there's a bit of a log jam behind them, so probably going to be lighter offensive line classes for this year. Probably next year we might see a bit more of an uptick.
Yeah. So from one commit that I think is very good to a commit that I just straight up don't understand is Stephen Osei, who is a JUCO commit committing to the men's basketball team. He's 6'9", 200 pounds. He's not going to be able to play this year. I don't get it. And it's not just because he won't be able to play this year. It's just, I don't see it with him. I just don't get it. Yeah, even if he could play this year, I don't think he's that good.
Yeah, I think the big concern with Stephen Osei is that, and I've seen this repeated a few times, is that he wasn't super dominant as a JUCO freshman, and nowadays in JUCO basketball, like you really need to be dominating to be someone that can have an effect in power conference basketball. I mean, Mobi Ikeruke, he was averaging almost 20 a game in junior college, and he played like 8 minutes a game this year. And granted, became a bit of a cold hero fan favorite, but he definitely wasn't scoring 20 a game. So with Stephen Osei, it's already a bit of a strange pickup. I get that we really need guys in the front court because I mean we're pretty thin there, but that doesn't solve that problem this year because he can't play this year. He's redshirting. He's injured. So I just don't know if there's a way that you can really twist this to make it make any sort of sense. I mean, I get that he has some interesting projectable athletic traits, but this is like a kind of reckless lottery ticket, I think. I mean, this is not, if you're going to throw a lottery ticket at a JUCO guy, he needs to at least to have the possibility of playing this year. Because if he's hurt to where he can't play, that tells me he's probably hurt to where he can't practice. And that does nothing for this team. It just takes up.
He does nothing. He serves no purpose.
Yeah, no offense to Stephen Osei. Like I'm sure he's a fine basketball player. Like, and I've seen some of his film, and he like does some things decently. But I just don't think it's there for the power four standpoint. And I'm not wholly opposed to taking flyers on JUCO guys. I generally would say I'm a bit averse to it, but yeah, this was a weird one. And I think most of the fan base has kind of picked up on that, that we're taking a JUCO guy that was fine, but not great, that can't even play this year. Now, if he turns into an All-American, then, sure, fine, whatever. The staff can come on the podcast and laugh at us for an hour. That would be fine.
I would sit there and take it. I'd be totally okay with that because I hope that happens. But yeah, this is just a weird one. I really don't know what to make of it. And I think the weird, not to dwell on this, but you brought up Mobi Ikeruke. At least Moby was a freak athlete. He isn't. He's just not. I just don't. I don't understand the pickup here, and I think that's all that I can really say before we move on to a pickup that I actually really, really like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to even say about him. So yeah, I guess we can move on.
But moving on to a pickup that we're actually both pretty big fans of, that's Marcus Johnson, the transfer from Bowling Green. And the first thing that people are going to see is he's 6'7", 265. Wow, that's a big boy. He must be a post player. Absolutely not. No, he is not. He's a nearly 40% three-point shooter. Rare skill set, especially for a guy that hefty. Not that I'm one to cast stones, but I mean, it's just a really strange and interesting skill set, and a guy who's proven to be able to score, which, I mean, I think we have 4 of those guys already, but I think it's an interesting pickup. I think it's cool.
Yeah. He had like an objectively good season statistically last year on the offensive end of the floor. 16.2 points per game, 5 rebounds. He shot 39.5% from 3, almost 90% of the free throw line. This is a guy that shoots the ball really well. And if you look at his highlights, he has a decently extensive package of moves that you can go to on the offensive end. The biggest underlying issue with him is because of his size, he doesn't really have a clear Holm on the defensive end, because he's not he. I mean, he's a big guy, but 6'7". He isn't going to quite be tall enough or agile enough to defend a lot of centers in the Big 12, or most post players, and he definitely won't be quick enough to defend people out on the wing. So he's someone that I'm a bit worried about on the defensive side of things. Now, if he drops a little bit of weight and is able to get to a point where he can move laterally, just a bit better, then I might feel a bit more comfortable leaving him on some taller players. But offensively, I'm nothing if not intrigued by his potential on that end. I think he was probably one of the better players left available in the portal as well, which I think is saying something, because I don't think there's a lot of quality left in the portal at this point. Darian Williams just committed to NC State earlier today, which, I mean, the only other guy left, or one of the only guys left, is PJ Haggerty, which
apparently there's some weird.
Yeah, if you believe the rumors, we're making a big push. Which, to be fair, if we got PJ Haggerty, like, my eyebrows would go up, and I would lock in a little bit, not all the way, but I would like rub my chin like pensively, like I'd like twirl my beard like Obi-Wan Kenobi in the prequels, and I'd narrow my eyes a bit to seem like I'm thinking about something really deep. So if we want to grab my attention, let's go drop a bag on PJ Haggerty's doorstep. But no, this is a team made up of some really interesting pieces that I still don't think there's quite enough there to really get me to believe that this team can make the tournament, but there's enough to at least get us to double-digit wins right now as things stand, and think we could probably not finish last in the conference. I bet there's probably one team that could be worse than us. I don't know what that team is, which maybe means that we might actually finish last.
It's probably UCF.
Oh yeah, it might be.
Or Colorado.
Yeah, it could be one of them. Maybe TCU. TCU's kind of had a rough go with things recently. I don't know, but we'll see. But that's not. Honestly, that's not the biggest news for men's basketball. There's some even more good news.
Yeah, and I would qualify this as good news because K-State, the men's basketball staff, had a hole on their staff at, I think it was the lead assistant, because Uric Malagi went back to Texas. And K-State ends up poaching a lone major head coach to join the staff as the assistant head coach. It's Matt Driscoll, who, the main thing that you need to know about Matt Driscoll is he's been around. Three things you need to know. He's been around for a while, so it's very, very similar to Bill Peterson, who is, I believe, the first new hire of the cycle. Either that or it was Chase Driscoll. Yes, there is a relation. Chase is Matt's son. The second thing is that Matt Driscoll was at North Florida for like 16 years or something like that. Third is he specializes in offense, which, please, that's been our biggest complaint for the past 2 years. Was defensively, we were always a pretty solid team once things got installed and got going. It was the offensive end that everyone complains about. Granted, everyone complains about the offense every time, no matter what the sport is. But still.
Yeah, I mean, for all of the negative things that we've said about the basketball team, the fan base has said about the basketball team, deservedly so. I mean, like, that's not to like scold or anything. Like, they like it was warranted. It's kind of just an objectively good choice, I think. I mean, I hesitate a little bit to say objectively, but I mean, I think this is a good hire. I mean, we've taken a guy that has a decade and a half of head coaching experience that we're familiar with, but has clearly went out and staked out something on his own. North Florida is a relatively young basketball program as well. They have only existed for about 20 years. So he's responsible for I think all of their postseason appearances, which is only 2, but low major, it's pretty much you got to win the conference tournament or that's about it, because they've only made it to the NCAA tournament once. And then they made one other tournament at one point at the NIT or the CBI or something. But North Florida, not an easy place to build a program either, but they've been getting some talent there, and they've been losing some guys in the portal the last couple of years. So this is a pretty good hire, I think. They averaged, I think, about 83 points a game last year. And I mean, there's a video of him out there talking about his offensive philosophy is space and pace, which I think is kind of what our staff has kind of wanted to do. They've just been doing a really bad job at doing it, which spacing the floor and moving quickly. Like, we obviously want to space the floor. I mean, they've been talking about the 5 out or whatever for a while, and when it hasn't been the 5 out, we've still been wanting to get our spacing right, but our spacing's kind of sucked the last couple of years. And so, I mean, we're looking at this and we're just bringing a guy that knows offense. We're going out of our way to make an addition to the staff that we think can help us out on the coaching end, which, for all of the faults and bad things of the last couple of years of the Jerome Tang era, being able to look yourself in the mirror and be like, yeah, something's got to change, and like kind of swallowing your pride and like making changes on the staff, like that's a good thing. I think now we'll see if it works, because if it doesn't work, then, we can just proceed to laugh again until we have to see the buyout amount that we're going to have to be paying. But yeah, this is a solid move. I think I'm pretty happy about that, honestly.
Yeah, and if I had to guess, no insider information, I don't know. I would assume Matt Driscoll is in charge of the offense now, replacing Rodney Perry, because why would you step down to be an associate head coach and then not have control of the thing that you're known for, is my logic there. But this is something that I think I want to say that it's kind of an overcorrection from the last year, where the big complaint last year was massive dry spouts in the offense. So we just got out a bunch of guys who are known for scoring a bunch of points in terms of getting the portal or getting players in. I fear that we may have neglected the defensive end a little bit, but this hire, at least, you said that they're a PJ Haggerty away from you raising your eyebrows and being intrigued. I am intrigued because, and it's not the intrigued where it's, oh, I think this team is going to be pretty good, or I think this team's going to be underrated or perhaps salty. No, I'm just interested to see how this works out. It's kind of like watching. It's kind of like watching toddlers try to put together a puzzle, where it's you see what's supposed to be happening with the finished product of the puzzle, but you're equally interested to see how they are going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a decent way to put it. One thing, though, I will say to defend the staff on defense is Nate Johnson was, I think, I think he was considered to be a pretty good defensive player.
Yeah.
In the MAC, like I think he was on the all-defensive team.
I believe so. Yeah.
Correctly, but you are correct otherwise, in that like a Marcus Johnson. No, the defense is not in his vocabulary.
Abdi Bashir.
Abdi Bashir. I mean, defense might be in his vocabulary. It's not a matter of want to, it's ability. And that dude is about 130 pounds soaking wet. So like he'll just get like split in half if he tries to stop someone from driving against him. So
yeah, I'm intrigued. This next year for both basketball teams is going to be interesting, because the women's team, a lot of people will use the term rebuilding year. I don't I don't agree with that. I prefer to use the term developmental year because rebuilding year implies that you're waiting for something that isn't currently on the roster. You're waiting for a different piece. I think all the pieces are on the roster. It's just a matter of them developing together. And the men's team will either be pretty solid as a bubble team or a complete trash fire. And I think both are interesting options. Do I have a preferred option? Yes, I prefer they be good. I prefer this team wins a national title and laughs in my face for, if they win a national title, they can sit me down and laugh in my face for a week straight. I'll sit there and take it. But I don't know. It's fascinating to me. I guess the phrase most people would use is morbid curiosity.
Yeah, and that's a decent way to put it too, I think. I'm definitely curious to see how we round out the roster. One, I think, big area of concern that remains for me is rebounding, because we don't necessarily need to have like 7-footers down there to have a good post presence. I mean, Ugo wasn't a particularly great rebounder.
And Mark Smith was an amazing rebounder.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd like to see us go out and get someone that's probably at least 6'7", 6'8", and can rebound, because we just do need a bit of front court help right now. Like Steven, like I would have liked if we replaced Steven Osei with just like someone that was capable of rebounding. I guess because Steven Osei can't do anything this year because he's hurt and he's redshirting. So, which still makes me scratch my head and wonder. But
remind me to tell you a story about Steven Osei after the show.
Okay.
But speaking of Mark Smith, we're going to cover the Batcats after this. I remember us talking a few months ago about the K-State all-time they deserved better team. Does Mark Smith at least come off the bench in that team?
Yeah, I'd bring him off the bench on that squad. Because I do think he probably deserved a bit better, because he was a good player, and he was a guy that played really hard and was really likable. But I also know completely, like, he knew exactly what he was getting into. Like he saw us go 9-20 in the COVID year and said, I'd like to join that team. So that's mostly his fault. But he still maybe deserved a bit better as a player in a vacuum.
Yeah. I agree. I think Dave definitely. I mean, Dave had the Elite Eight run, but Dave deserves the world, man.
Yeah, that's a dude that's gonna live in my EMA royalty like hall of guys that I really like. So I hope he comes back and visits often. I would like to see him in the like player designated mid-court, like courtside seats often.
Yeah, that'd be good. Apparently he seems super emo, so
yeah, he sold me some shoes last weekend.
That was me trying to get you to tell that story before we talked about the Batcats.
Yeah, I went and bought some shoes from that man, and he was very nice. That's really it. There's not any more story to it. I just met him, and he was a very nice guy.
Good guy, Dave. Anyway, the Batcats, they won the last game of the Cincinnati series. I mean, they lost the series 2-1, then end up dropping in, I don't want to call it humiliating fashion, but like sort of a dull thud fashion up against Houston in the Big 12 tournament. Projections still have them pretty comfortably in the NCAA tournament. However, with how baseball is such a momentum sport, I am a little worried that we're going to get just absolutely pimp jobbed wherever we end up going, even though the projections had us as a 2 seed in the Oregon regional, which I always thought the 2 seed was a little lofty. But I mean, if we still end up in the Oregon region, I think that's a strangely favorable matchup. But it's kind of a take it or leave it moment with me.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that regional, honestly. But I'd imagine we'll probably be a 3 seed. I'd like to be a 2 seed, and there was I definitely agree with you. I think that was a bit of an overestimation from some of the bracketology folks, but I do think that going strictly on RPI going into this weekend, we were 32. So if the committee just went down the line RPI wise, like we would have been the last 2 seed, which feels weird to say, but I mean, we blew our one game in Arlington. I still think we're in pretty comfortably, like not even worried about the bubble. So, which is a nice position to be in. This is really about the first time I think that we've been able to say this since the 2013 Super Regionals run. Because I think even last year we were like pretty sure we were in, but we were just a little bit worried. We were like, I don't know, like something could happen, like because we were prepared for disappointment. But no, this team should be in. I know last year we were kind of on a kind of poor trajectory headed into the postseason. So maybe we can flip things around like we did last year. Because I mean, last year we dropped a home series to BYU, who very bad last year, and then I think we went like 1-1 in Arlington. So we weren't in a particularly good spot. So we're actually doing better this year than we were last year. But obviously these last 4 games still haven't been great. Picking one up in Cincy, though, I think was huge. We really just needed a 1. Could have gotten 2. I would have been happy with that, but just needed 1, and that's fine.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, the current projection has us in the Oxford region playing Ole Miss, Northeastern, and Bryant. I really don't want to see Northeastern again.
No, I do not, but I do appreciate their online fan base. They're very often in K-State Baseball's replies after we win with some encouraging comments about we're helping their RPI. So I also don't want to see them anymore, but I do have a slight soft spot in my heart for the Huskies.
Yeah, and also worth noting is KU is in the Fayetteville Regional in the projections, alongside Notre Dame and Central Connecticut.
Well, let's hope that Arkansas is too stupid to know the difference between KU and K-State and take out all their anger from last year and earlier this season on the Jayhawks.
I mean, I feel like KU has a special bone to pick with Arkansas, because the Liberty Bowl a few years ago and then knocking them out of the tournament, the basketball tournament this year.
That is true, yes, but never underestimate a stupid Arkansas. Arkansas. No,
I think it's in Arkansas. But, oh man, now I'm thinking about the Bean overthrow. There are very few things I just think of and they instantly make me laugh. Yeah, that's one of them.
That's a good one.
Anyway, do you have any final notes before we sign off?
No, nothing more from me.
All right. Well, if that's the case, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us just about anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. And if you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at ACEdward00.
I am at Connor Balthasar, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store, link found in our podcast and Twitter bio. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.